Hello, Jedi Knights and Sith Lords. Today we'll be breaking down episodes 1 to 3 from the Andor series. So let's dive right into it. Eric, first, how are you doing today?
Doing good, and you?
Yeah, doing great. Yeah,
Good,
I
good.
had a good time rewatching for the second time all
Yeah,
three episodes. Watched it on the big screen because when we get to see the screeners, people need to know that we could stream them on the television, but it's made for the computer, and
yeah,
we have our email right in the middle
yeah.
of the screen.
There's a nice big watermark in the middle, so it'd be fun to be able to prepare some slides or some stuff in advance. But we kind of change the format anyway. But it's for me, I can't stop sometimes looking at it. But you know, it's we still get the privilege of seeing it ahead of
Yeah,
time, and now it's fun that after last week's spoiler free preview, we can dig a little bit into the first three episodes and speak about what's been going on and debate some of the events. So,
yeah,
um,
there's a lot to talk about.
yeah,
So
what did you just overall the first three episodes without a score or anything? What did you were you happy with what we
yeah,
saw to pick up or where we left off?
I- yeah, I think it serves its purpose perfectly with catching up with everybody
Yeah,
and seeing how everybody's doing, what's changed in their life during that 1 year span.
yeah,
So yeah, I think it was the perfect setup
yeah. It was a good
for what's
where are
coming.
they
Yeah.
now kind of like first episode, and I thought it
Hmm.
really got off to a good start with the
Oh yeah.
Cassian and the scene where I personally thought I got a lot of flashbacks of the Force Awakens scene with Poe and Finn
Yeah.
when they were trying to escape and like that whole thing, and it was fun to see the old the range trooper make an appearance
Yeah.
back in there.
Is your element close by
No,
or
no, no, it's a
okay?
little
It's
far, but
far away. Okay.
yeah, but it was fun to see. I was good. I was happy to see them get a little bit more love, even though he ended up being a big gaping hole in the end.
Yeah.
A little bit of comedy there, but that whole scene to me really had that Force Awaken vibe and had that fun Star Wars aspect that we like to have, and um, it was it was for me when I first watched it, I was like, okay, this is on point. Let's go. But then it really slammed on the brakes. Like I find for the next well, actually, right after that scene, it really slowed
Yeah.
down because it's like, okay, we've got you, we've hooked you. Now let's go back. Where are they now? And let's start developing the story. So it caught me a little bit off guard. I was a little bit. I don't know if I sent you a comment or I know that when we were kind of watching it, I was just like, I don't know. This is a little slow, but in hindsight, after watching the whole thing, obviously it all comes together.
It makes sense. Yeah.
But so we were talking also before, like about where Cassian escapes off to with that ship. I mean, because we see he's fully integrated now into the cause. He's
Hmm.
infiltrating the Empire and stuff like that. So he steals what was like a prototype ship or something. And
Yeah. Yeah. It's a prototype for the TIE Avenger.
yeah,
It's never mentioned in the episodes, but Tony Gilroy confirmed it in an interview that it was indeed the TIE Avenger. So
it does. It definitely looks like the tie silencer, like Kylo's tie silencer. I find
yeah,
it has that
yeah,
look
true.
to it. So
The design is pretty similar.
yeah.
The only other time we saw the TIE Avenger was in the good old TIE Fighter games from the 90s. So
Oh, okay.
it's
Jeez.
been a while
Yeah.
since we've seen those type of fighters.
So I mean, obviously his storyline, like when we're watching the first episodes, I find there wasn't much going on. I felt like it was for him. It was a little bit of a filler while we were seeing what was going on the other aspects with Bix
Hmm.
and the other characters. But so he ends up escaping towards that towards another like forest planet. Uh,
Yeah, Jungle Planet. Yeah,
yeah.
we don't know which one first.
So where
But
there's like that kind of like they have that group that's lost their leader and they're torn
their
or
ship has crashed
yeah,
there, and
exactly. They
they're hungry.
yeah, exactly, have no resources, they don't trust them. So I mean that's basically, I'd say that the the major part of Cassian's storyline was involved on that planet. and that kind of standoff that they have. So for
Hmm.
me, it's like I didn't find it that interesting personally. I just like it kind of became redundant after like two full episodes of this kind of like
Yeah.
bickering at each other over the leadership and Cassian being imprisoned and all that stuff. So it was like I don't know. I thought that part was okay, but I was just a little bit, I guess, disappointed after the way it started. That like that's where it ended up with Cassian and kind of like
Hmm.
not say mothballed him, but they kind of put him aside while they moved on to what was going on with the other characters.
Yeah, yeah, and that rebel crew was mentioned by Saw Gerrera in the first season, but never got to develop that story much, and mm, that I didn't feel that like I did care about that group because they seemed like low IQs and arguing about small stuff.
Yeah, I get it.
You can't win against the Empire if you're bickering about who's going to eat the food bars and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So
So I don't know. I didn't really find them all that interesting, and so like to add an element of what like reminded me a little bit of like Predator or something like that, or Jurassic Park, where there's something in the woods too to add that
yeah.
that extra element to like, well, they want to attack each other, but there's that other thing out there. So, and obviously that's where Cassian takes his advantage of the whole kind of like altercation in the middle to escape, and off he goes, and that was basically his storyline for the first three episodes. But where I thought the more interesting parts of the series for me personally was what was going on with Deidre and Cyril and where they were
Mm.
at now. So I don't know what you thought of where was Deidre when we first found her.
Yeah, well, if you remember correctly, at the very end of our very last podcast for Andor season one, I told you that I would be very, very disappointed if we didn't see Cyril and Deidre
Yeah,
all sweaty in bed when their storyline resumed. And my wish was almost granted.
almost. Well, I'd say pretty
Yeah,
far from granted in terms of the hot and heavy stuff, but
yeah.
especially like the actually I'm not going to say anything because I'm not even sure if that was in one of those episodes, but I just think that it's like it was kind of weird, like because obviously when we first see her introduction is and they didn't waste any time bringing Krennic, which I was super
Hmm.
happy about.
Yeah,
But as everyone saw, at this point they're planning their takeover of
Gorman.
Gorman, and basically their strategy was to which was very interesting, I guess, to try to keep face was to say, well, let's instigate them into attacking us, and then we'll be able to attack them. And you know,
Yeah, but first, I really enjoyed that Gorman presentation before the meeting
yeah, yeah,
actually started.
yeah,
It felt so 60s or
yeah,
70s
come have a
with the
vacation.
voiceover. Yeah, come visit Gorman. We'll see some beautiful spiders weaving silk and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay,
But it's funny
interesting.
that you mentioned that because it's something that I noticed.
It felt like a Walt Disney promo
Yeah,
video from the
like
time
yeah, the
Walt
older
was
time.
actually alive. And then like credit just has enough of it. It was like, okay, stop. Now
Yeah.
let's get down to business.
So it's yeah, because they're talking about the resources and the silk from the
Yeah.
spiders and everything like that. But it's funny because there's something that we see throughout the first three episodes, and is that there's a lot more on the planet. It makes it sound, and we saw this in I think in the Skeleton Crew as well. The television entertainment kind of like iPads, this kind of
Hmm.
commercials, all this kind of stuff where that's something that we hadn't really seen that much. Like you never once, and I think in the whole saga do you see like any kind of promotion of some sort for products. Well, maybe a little bit in episode, was it
Well,
episode
in
2?
Solo, there's like a video for Imperial propaganda at some point, but it
Yeah,
was very minimal, for
exactly.
sure.
So it's funny that to see that they are living like everyone else with like television, watching this. Because we did see it in season 1 with
Mm.
Cyril and his mom, that there's TV and news and
Well,
stuff
yeah,
like
we
this.
said briefly when they mentioned the heist
Yeah,
They watch it like from the alternate news, but it's pretty brief,
Yeah,
like
like I'm reporting
30
here from da da
seconds.
da. Like it just sounds it's
Yeah.
something that we hadn't really seen before. So you see it
Mhm.
throughout this a little bit, which surprised me. But yeah, your wish did come true after that. After the whole, we saw the whole planning is we saw Cyril who's got a promotion now and all that, and within the job that had been set up by his
And
uncle or
yeah, Uncle Harlow, yeah.
yeah.
And he's giving the new guy the same speech he was given
Mm,
when he entered the Bureau of Standards. Like, there's a lot of opportunity here at
yeah.
the Bureau of Standards, and blah, blah, blah. And then he has his own finishing line when he says, uh, there's a lot of opportunities for those who dare.
So
And he gives like an example of something he got to, a network he was able to stop because he was overzealous as usual. And, he was like, he takes pride in that. And,
which is ironic considering how he probably got promoted, right? Because so it's not
yeah.
really not so. Obviously, then after that, it's when your part that I thought of you as well when he comes home and Deidre's there. We were
Honey, I'm
just
home.
yeah, we're just like oh, but it's such an awkward relationship that they have. It's
Oh, yeah.
so formal and all this
It's
stuff.
cold.
It's yeah, it's just weird, but we got to see something that was very interesting afterwards in that in their storyline where I think it was in the third episode or that what where they meet because we see that they're together. I think it's in the second episode that we kind of like,
Yeah.
and then there's a meeting of the mother, which was quite interesting.
For sure.
That to me was like one of the more interesting parts of the first few
You're
episodes.
nothing like I
Yeah,
imagined. I was
exactly.
like, oh, God,
Yeah,
not again.
but obviously this we get to see why.
She's such a great actress, though.
Yeah, but we see Deidre like obviously notices why Cyril is the way he is, why he's
Hmm.
insecure, trying to live up to some certain standard and surpass and trying to gain this power and like the mom actually totally annihilates him kind of mentally to the point where he has to go and almost like pout in his bed like
Take a
a
break in his
yeah,
bed. Yeah, break time for me. I
and
can't take it anymore.
then the Deidre comes out and
Ah,
she yeah
that moment. Yeah, I was
yeah
like, yes.
so
Probably the only time we'll be cheering for Deidre throughout the whole season, I think.
Uh, yeah, I mean, it's
Well,
on
it
and
depends
off
on
with
your
her.
point of
It's
view.
it's on and off with her, right? So it's kind of weird, but I thought that was made for definitely an interesting storyline. That like they're together, but it's like it's like reluctant. It's just a very weird
Yeah.
situation. But I mean, obviously, there's more to come from that, and then on the other part, where we find out what's going on with Mon Mothma and Luthen and all
Hmm.
that stuff, and where the basically this is the part I thought was a little less interesting. As much as like I thought Cassian was like part of the development is they finally got this wedding out of the way that that was set up
Hmm.
towards the end. Um,
But it's all about politics
yeah,
during that wedding,
exactly. It
So
was about them getting together, and so we see
Mon
where they're
finds
at with
out
that.
Luton is there. She doesn't know why.
Yeah,
She thinks he's there because he wants to interfere, but turns out Davos Galdin ended up hiring him to bring the newlyweds their wedding gifts.
yeah,
How opportunistic for
yeah.
Luton to be there.
Doesn't miss a chance.
Doesn't miss a chance. And when he says to Scaldin, "Oh, I'm not good at lying," I was like, "Geez, the guy's been living a double life for who knows how
Yeah,
long," and he says not good at lying. I was laughing out loud in my office, saying, "Wow, okay, that's a good line."
but it's like
So
it's so we saw that the relationship between mother and daughter still remains the same even when she tried to give an out at the end the daughter was still so for
one of my
me
notes on my sheets in front of me, it's very brief. It's Perrin, Ferda, and Leda are still jerks,
yeah
and that's spot on. I think. I mean, his husband starts acting all jealous between the rehearsals,
yeah
saying he thinks Mon has an affair with Tay Kolma. Uh, honestly, I wish she did because that guy is a hole,
Yeah.
first class a hole. But you know, and Tacoma has problems of his own now because he helped Mon, move some money, and because she was able to move that money, she was able to begin, the kickstart the rebellion,
Yeah.
and the actions taken by the rebels hurt
Yeah, they got some
Tacoma's
financial burden
finances.
on
Yeah,
him, and all of a sudden he's not so generous anymore, right? Like it
yeah,
was, yeah,
and Mon obviously feels bad for him and wants to have a little settlement uh, to help Tay, but Luton hears of it, and you know as it goes along with the wedding, we see that Tacoma gets drunk a few times. He starts to speak a little too much,
yeah,
gets and with the wrong person, the wrong individuals. So uh, I guess he ultimately decides that Tay needs to go, and Tay was Mon's first boyfriend, and they were close, they were good friends, and that's why at the end of the wedding, she decides to get drunk herself, and
well, that was the part
because
that was I thought, and I don't know what your impressions were, but I thought it was a little. At first, I thought it was random, and then I was trying to read into why she, went into that kind of like spiraling down, like because I feel like many things came at a crossroad for her, and then like she
yeah,
was just
well,
like the pressure of this, and like knowing exactly this is going to be a big step moving forward into the next phase, I guess, of the rebellion or whatever you want to call it, and uh,
everything's falling apart in her
yeah,
life. I mean, her husband acts like a jerk.
her
Same
daughter
thing
is
for her
still,
daughter,
yeah.
and then she loses the only ally she has. Her best ally in
Yeah.
Tacoma,
Well, what was a
and
personal friend that she could trust, and now it's like that's
yeah,
not,
like a confidant, or yeah. So
So it's funny because the whole music that was playing there, I still had that kind of, I felt like that Andor feel when that music was like kind of was like a techno
it's
kind
a
of
remix
like,
of the Niamos scene.
yeah, okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah, they kind of remixed it. So yeah, it was pretty. Well, it sounded
it's got
pretty
that
good though.
Blade Runner kind of feel or whatnot. So it
Yeah,
was so that's what I was trying to read, like what's going through her mind at this point. She just wants to escape, I guess, through, I guess, like many people do, take alcohol or whatever it is and try to, like,
yeah,
I mean, not the
and
best way to do it, but like she was kind of like, you could see she was kind of torn on the inside with.
and throughout the rehearsal, Vel, which is Mon's cousin, tells her that she hasn't seen Cinta in a long while. That
Yeah,
she's
well,
not going to return her calls, and
she saw her.
she's yeah, yeah. At the very end, she sees her, and she sees that she's replacing Tay's driver,
Yeah,
and right away I knew that
well, that was
Tay's a
that.
goner. Yeah,
Yeah, so
the
that
angel of death.
that pretty much closed that aspect. So it was, I thought it was a good introduction for that story arc for them,
Hmm.
to see like where they're at now, what's been going on. In my mind, get rid of that wedding if you have to show it. I mean, I think it wasn't crucial to show the wedding, but it was a crucial point to gather them back together. That was the only way you
Yeah.
could have them all back in public without having a bunch of scenes of them hiding behind buildings or back alleys
Hmm.
to meet secretly, right? Because you can only have her meeting at Luthen's shop, how many times, right? So,
Yeah.
so
And
I
how about that planet Chandrila? That set. I mean, it was pretty impressive. The set
which,
design and
yeah,
how it looked on Chandrila, I was like, wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
It
like,
felt like they were in Tibet, or
but we had
they
how
might be
many
in the monastery. Is it
how many
high in the
different planets do
mountains?
we get though in the first? There was a couple
So
new ones, right?
the first three we see, at first we see CNR, which is both a planet and a family name.
Okay,
And that family name runs the CNR company, which designs the TIE fighters. And then we see Mina Rao on the Bix, Bresso, and Wilman Hark.
yeah, we'll get to that one.
And then we see the Multi Divide, where they have the meeting in the mountains, the Imperial meeting,
Yeah.
and then we get to see Chandrila and Coruscant.
So that the where they had that meeting, I was wondering if it was, I mean, obviously it's not Hoth, but it was like a kind of an ice planet as well. Like it looked like a very
Yeah.
cold environment. So I was thinking maybe even like in Solo, the planet that they do the train heist. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
remember. I didn't remember. I mean, you're better with the planets than I am when it comes to this stuff. So I was trying to
Yeah,
remember if there's any kind of link, if they can go back. Especially since we saw the range trooper, like I'm like, oh, if there was a link, but I didn't.
yeah,
I
it
didn't do any
could have
research.
been, but no, it's
Yeah.
a whole different planet. So
But yeah, where the wedding was crazy. And they even had that kind of like at one point they go on a hike like in the
yeah,
mountains and all this
mm-hmm.
stuff. But
To
like
meet
again,
with the elders and yeah,
so it's all that was kind of interesting. And then and you know what, like in a way, the daughter was kind of like I thought she was gonna turn,
yeah,
um, like to maybe not to but I know we don't see her in Rogue One or anything
mm-hmm.
like that. So like I didn't. There was no link, or maybe they could have recast. Who knows? But I didn't see any link, so I wasn't surprised when she still decided to, I guess, stand off
To go
against
ahead.
her. But like after, especially when she's saying that he won't hold my hand, talking about her future husband, all this stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
I thought maybe she was showing some vulnerability, and she did show, and I think that that's why Mon Mothma was a little even more disappointed at the end when it's like she had that vulnerability for her daughter as well, and even then it was like she still
Yeah,
couldn't get anything out of her. So
yeah. When she told her, "I wish you were drunk," I was like, "Oh
yeah,
God."
yeah,
Yeah, and you see that Mon is hurting because a it's her daughter, and her acting as mean as she is, she wipes the tear just before the door opens,
yeah,
and all right, that's what you want, honey. We'll go with it,
yeah.
So
I think at that point, it's again, she had disconnected from that. She knew what was going to happen, and it's pretty all rolls up into that scene where she's kind of getting wasted and dancing.
yeah.
But the other group we haven't spoken about yet is what's been going on with Bix and Brasso.
Well,
Like that
let's
was
go back a bit with Deidre and our good old friend Director Critic first, because his plan is evil. As you said, they want to create, they want to force the population to create an insurrection, and we get to hear those two guys from the Enlightenment Department, the two over motivated guys that stood up at the meeting, and they seem like above their
yeah,
things. And I was like, what the heck is that? And I did a little research, and it was an actual department in the Nazi regime.
Jesus. Well, I mean, it makes
So
sense, right? Like a lot of their strategy and whatnot that we see, and we'll get into that a little bit with the big part of it. But like that,
yeah.
there's obviously a lot of that vibe in there that we had seen even as
Hmm.
far as season one. So
Oh yeah, and when he talks only to Deidre by the window, and he says, I want your assessment, and she's like, well, I would have to study the file and everything. He's like, no, 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 don't give me your usual crap.
yeah,
You've already have a strategy in your head, and I want to hear it. And she's like, okay, no more wearing my mask. Poof, that's what you
yeah.
should do. It's like instantaneous. So ah, well, you guys are gonna find out in the upcoming weeks how evilish that plan is. But yeah,
yeah.
it's pretty awesome. So okay, go back to
So Bix and
Bix
Brasso,
and Brasso.
they're on the what looks like a farm planet and trying to like away from that whole they've really escaped, and like we saw at the end of season one where they just got out of that whole
Hmm.
mess, seem to be living a little bit more of a peaceful life, but it is run by the Empire.
Yeah, yeah. They don't go there really often. It's in the outer rim, Mineral, and the way it looks with the fields, it kind of reminded me of Lothal in the Rebels animated series
Oh,
with
that
the big fields of grain and everything. Yeah, it had that vibe. But as soon as I saw Mineral, I was like, okay, you plant it, fine. But I guess it's the perfect hiding spot for uh, wanted people from the Empire. I mean,
so
they
they
don't
were
play the
waiting
papers.
they're waiting for contact from Cassian, but obviously him and his mess, what's going on
Yeah,
and
being
they're
delayed.
yeah, so they're waiting for him to get in touch, and meanwhile, we see that kind of to go back to what you were saying, like the Nazi regime, where the Empire, tries to save face and tries to
Hmm.
stay civilized and show them, but there is a different side of what's been going on, and they are very much in control and very suppressing the the population that's there. And then we see I forget what the other guy's name is, not Brasso, but the other younger.
Wilman.
Yeah, so he's kind of gotten himself in a little of a relationship, so kind of happy
Yeah.
for him and stuff.
Hmm.
But I just think that like it leads to this whole scene that
And
like
Bix is still traumatized by
oh yeah,
her experience with
yeah,
Dr. Gorman. I mean, she has nightmares. She
yeah,
wakes up all sweaty, and
yeah,
it's and I guess rightfully so.
yeah,
But you know, things are starting to look quiet for them, and everything is fine until we see in the sky a Gozanti class cruiser arriving, and even Wilman's girlfriend has never seen an Imperial ship,
yeah,
well, for a long, long while. So, and they're here for a little census. I want to check out on the population,
yeah.
and
And them
we get
obviously
to
not
see,
being or not having their citizens cards or whatever, not like. And I guess
yeah,
that's where the tension comes up, and
and
then
we
we have
get to meet Lieutenant Crow,
so he's the one that approaches Bix and
Bix,
has this kind of like he looks like
flirty.
he's not getting anything in return, but she's got to be careful too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talking about her husband and he's going to come back and all this stuff, and so that's the part that like obviously it circles back towards
That
the
guy was so creepy.
yeah, total creeper. But so this is the part that I've seen reactions on the internet is it's when he does ultimately go back to see her, and he decides, you know what, with the arrogance of the Empire, and again we're talking about the Nazi regime, but when these people want something, they
They
take
take it.
it with, and they think
Mm,
there's no consequence, right? And there's been a lot of reaction about the assault scene, even though it doesn't go very far. I mean,
mm-hmm.
other than physical, like kind of like like a beating or whatever. But like a lot of people have been reacting to that whole scene where it's in like, well, how can you show this stuff in a kid's IP and stuff like that? But like,
Yeah,
it, it,
stuff for
it
kids.
it's this show is clearly not for kids, and
No.
if they've gotten that far, I'm pretty sure that most kids didn't even get that far, because that honestly
Mm-hmm.
like how we started, like how things really slowed down after in terms of action after the Cassian escape with the ship. It really slowed down. I can't imagine a kid watching this and being, oh, this is so good. And most kids will just think of this guy's mean and he's trying to beat her up. They
Mm-hmm.
don't know of his other intentions is going on.
Yeah,
And that's again, it's an adult oriented show, and
that's true.
and all it did that one, without even going too far, look at the
Mm-hmm.
reaction it got. That means people understood what was going on, and you'd be
Yeah.
blind to think that it wasn't probably going on already. And obviously
Mm-hmm.
it's more mature content, but I had no problem with the way that they did it. They wanted to emphasize that this stuff did go down,
Mm-hmm.
and I
And
guess
as
like,
you say, she was not the first one to
oh
go
yeah,
through situations like that for sure.
yeah. So it's like so when people talk about it's a kid's IP, so you're talking about the same show or the same franchise that showed Anakin Skywalker insinuate
Kill younglings.
he was gonna murder a bunch of children, right?
Yeah.
So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, and he also killed in episode 2, uh, the what the Sand People. Like he killed like
Ah,
their
yeah, yeah. The Tusken
the
Raiders.
Tusken
Yeah.
Raiders.
Mm.
He goes the women and the children too. He flat out said he killed like women and children. So it's like,
Yeah.
so now you have a problem with this. It's like at what point is like you can't keep moving the goalposts on your opinion with this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's an adult oriented show. If you're clear within the first few episodes, I know my kids would probably wouldn't enjoy it. They'd be like, oh, when's this gonna pick up? Is there gonna be action? Probably just give up on the show. Like no kid's watching this by himself. I would
Oh
think
no.
most not, right? So
Hmm.
I think this. I mean, that's my point of view on it. I think that I think they did it respectfully. Didn't really go too far. If there had been
Hmm.
like this whole, part of undressing and a whole scene of that, okay, that I would have obviously objected to. But they're insinuating the same way that they insinuated that Anakin killed a bunch of kids. Um, so
And I never felt that they tried to portray Bix as a victim. I mean, yeah, she's the one being attacked and everything, but she stood up for herself,
yeah,
and she got to him and she gave him what he deserved.
yeah.
So
If
uh,
anything, it empowers the woman's part of this situation more than anything. And it's funny because talking about, I'm totally gonna
when
digress
when
from
when
the
I saw her hit him on the face with the hammer or
yeah,
whatever it was, I was like, yeah,
yeah.
way to go,
So it's
finish him. It
it's
was like
funny
a
though.
Mortal Kombat, finish him.
I'll circle back to the that part of the a little bit of a thought on this whole situation that's going on also with Disney, but so basically that's where we were at. So if we move on from that part, I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add, but obviously Cashin, that we talk about where we started with the series. Everything circles back to Cashin coming back to the planet
Hmm.
to get them, I guess, and escape. But we lost well, we
Yeah.
lost one big piece along the way. So
Hmm.
and that
Yeah, so when they try to escape because they reach a point where they know that they're illegal on that planet. They don't have the papers, and that they're wanted by the Empire. So we feel that they're kind of cornered, and Wilman is not there. He's gone to say goodbye to his girlfriend.
yeah
Brasso leaves to warn him, and in the whole process he gets caught, and uh, and that discussion between him and the guy with the gray hair, the actual guy who was helping them on that planet,
yeah
it was all staged because some people were saying that that guy betrayed Brasso, Bix, and Wildman, but I'm not that convinced. I think Brasso said what he said to that guy
oh
because
yeah for sure.
he
That's
wanted
my
to save his
impression.
life
Yeah, he was like he wanted to divert the attention away from him.
to
He didn't.
him.
Yeah,
Hmm.
because he didn't want to. He took
Involve
accountability
him.
for their
Yeah.
involvement and basically said, "Oh, you did this." So making that guy out to be a hero to the Empire for turning them in and whatnot. So yeah, I
Yeah,
got the same impression.
some people thought that he had betrayed them.
Oh
I'm
no
like,
no
no,
no!
no,
I
that's
didn't
not it
think
at
that.
all.
I didn't think that at all. It's
Yeah.
I didn't realize people had noticed that, but or thought that. But yeah, that seemed to be clear to me that that's what he was doing. Was he was kind of taking the bullet for the involvement and being accountable so that the Empire won't have any repercussions towards them for having, I guess,
Hmm.
harbored them, right? So
Yeah. So in the process of escaping, he jumps on the speeder bike, same audio sounds as in good old episode 6
yeah,
on the Andor forest. And while he escapes, I guess Russell was really, really, really unlucky because he fell on the only stormtrooper in the galaxy that can take aim. So,
Obi-Wan said that only a stormtrooper can be that precise, right? So it's
oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, well, that was the one. So and he ends up being hit, and yeah, in the very last moments of the episodes, we see that he's a goner. So
So it was
yeah,
unfortunate to see that Cashin didn't have a last interaction or talking interaction
with
with
him, yeah.
Brasso, but I mean, so that's basically where it leaves off, and they
Hmm.
take off. But just to go back real quick, like to the whole point is that for me, the empowerment that they have of Vix in this, the confidence and the empowerment that they give Deidre and
Hmm.
Mon Mothma and everything like that. Like like for everyone that keeps talking, and it was I think the girl, the actress who played Princess Leia, and Obi-Wan that said we need less male centric Star Wars or something like that. Like, what else do you want? I don't
Yeah.
understand. Like at this point, I think Deidre is probably one of the best actresses in the whole series. Mon
Mm-hmm.
Mothma is incredible, and Bix is incredible as well. So it's like,
Mix is badass. Yeah.
yeah. And if you go as far back as, like, you want to talk about the Disney era and stuff like that, you have, Ray, you have Jin
Mm-hmm.
Urso, you have like all these like
Bo-Katan cries.
Mandalorian season 3 is, when they talk about Mandalorian season, the Mandalorian they're talking about is Bo-Katan, right? They're not talking
Yeah.
about the Mando that we have in season one
I don't
and
know.
two, right? So it's like, so empowering. Like, it's like, I just don't understand where this comes from, because the only thing, and I'm not going to hit acolytes here again, but I'm just saying the only one that had the women empowerment that people didn't like was that. So I don't
Yeah.
understand why that got all the attention and how men are sexist, because no one's ever really said, there's some people that don't like the sequels and whatever, right? But like
And
every
I
other
got to
show,
watch like the press conference of all the actresses in Andor, and they were all so thankful to Tony Gilroy for writing a script that really empowered them,
yeah.
and made them strong women. So
And like I
yeah,
said, so you
they.
have you have well, you just said the one that took out who replaced the driver, I forget her name.
Yeah, Cinta.
Yeah, so like
Hmm.
everyone, like every cool and badass kind of character in most
Yeah.
cases are the females. So I don't, and the thing is, I haven't heard one male or one man say anything negative about any of these people, right?
Hmm.
So I mean, you can say what you want, but people don't like the sequels, but a lot of people just don't like the sequels. It's not that they don't necessarily like Ray, they just didn't like the sequels, right? So
It's the writing, I guess.
I think that, like you said, Tony Gilroy's been doing a great job. As much as it's
Hmm.
called, the show is called Andor. I mean, there's
Yeah.
so much going on around him, and
Hmm.
a lot of the standouts, like what do you want to call it? Even Cyril's mom standout performance,
Yeah.
right? Like all this
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
So I don't understand, like, what else is it that you like? Are you not going to be happy until it's an all female show or something? Like, it never ends. So and I think everyone, like I said, so far the ratings are out. Like, most of the ratings that have come out in the reviews for Andor, the first three episodes, and I think it was like Rotten
I mean,
Tomatoes with like,
even Rotten Tomato, yeah,
yeah,
98% or
like
something like that.
some of
So.
the best, like, kind of like ratings. So I don't really get
Hmm.
what the problem is, and like it is proof that if you make a good story and you base it around the story, and you prioritize the fans the way that, like, we
Hmm.
we had referred to it in our last kind of like preview, is like if you do it for the fans, and I'm talking about not just Tony Gilroy, but like if the cast wants and respects the fans, the people that have kind of created this, like, fan base or whatever, like the
Hmm.
popularity, and, like, what pays the bills in the end, right? And
Hmm.
you write a good
True.
story, then it's going to be good. There's no problem. So there's no controversy, and if there is, I haven't heard any so far with this episode, with this series.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Do you want me to bombard you with Easter eggs?
Sure, let's go.
All right. Episode one. Let's go. As we told you in our preview, we see the 1 year later writing, and we hear the Ferrex anvil, dun, dun, that we got to hear in season one. So I thought it was,
Oh,
a
yeah,
nice
yeah, yeah, yeah,
recall to
yeah.
season one. Uh, I mentioned the Imperial shuttle that arrives on Minarao. That's a Gozanti class cruiser. We saw those ships in Rebels. We saw those ships in The Mandalorian. That's the ship they steal with Bo-Katan Kryze and her crew in Mando season two. Um,
You're full Rebels mode now,
Nothing.
eh? Like, right now, you
Yeah,
referred to them, I think,
yeah.
4 times in our conversation, even before. Like, it shows that you're in the Rebels
I'm in
rewatch,
my
right?
rewatch
Yeah.
right now, so then I was disappointed to not see many new stuff at the gallery when Clea went back to check out the comms at the gallery. There was
Yeah.
no real new Easter eggs, but that will change throughout the season. As I mentioned, Erskine, Mon Matma's attaché, we got to see him in Rebels as well. So nice little connection over there. And on Minarao, when they try to reach Cassian, there's they have a little radio. We see a Marva painting right next to it. I thought it was a nice
Oh,
touch
yeah,
to
yeah, I think I remember seeing that also.
So that's for episode 1. Episode 2, we hear a few interesting quotes in the jungle. We hear "It's a trap," and we hear "Ichuta," which is like an insult in the Star Wars universe. We first heard it in Empire Strikes Back when the silver 3PO protocol droid came out on Bespin, and it was like, how rude.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah, oh, yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's one interesting, but we hear it many times afterwards. But um, still no new stuff at the gallery. The beast that attacks them in the jungle. It looks like a reek, but it's not a reek. The reek is like the rhinoceros that attacks Anakin on Geonosis.
Yeah.
So that's not the same type of beast. I think they mentioned it in the subtitles. Let's ask our viewers to type it down in the comments if they recall the name of that beast. The statue gifted by uh, the father of the groom is a Shandy Merle. Shandy Merle is one of 12 statues that was stolen by the Rakatan Empire. We're going into the legend stuff here. So, and the Rakatan Empire was mentioned also in season 1 when Luton gave Andor the blue kyber crystal. It said that it was an artifact from the time of the Rakatan invaders. So, nice callback there. And episode 3, no Easter eggs. So,
Oh,
all
surprised you
good.
didn't find anything in that one.
Did I miss something, guys? Put it in the comments.
So okay, so to wrap up, what was your impression? I mean, it's. I don't want to go give an episode a rating for each episode because I think it's
Great,
not
no,
going to be fair.
let's do
Yeah,
it for the
it's a
whole, baby. Yeah.
yeah. So if you were to take, let's call it part 1, 2, 3, and 4 because that's what we're going to get. But so the first part of the first story arc, what would you give it?
The first one would be Cassian.
No, no, no. I mean like
Oh,
the first 3
the
episodes,
free.
like as a whole.
Okay,
Yeah,
first episode. Yeah.
yeah,
I would give it a 8.5.
yeah. Okay.
Think about that. You know, it starts slow, but it sure is gonna ramp up in the upcoming
Yeah.
episode for sure.
So for me, in terms of
I want
like
to leave some room for improvement throughout the next episode. So that's why I'm starting at around 8. And
So if I mean our last I think when we last week when we spoke I think we both gave it a 9.5 for the whole series. So
mhm,
um I'm gonna give it like a more like a in terms of watchability. Like if
mhm,
when you're gonna go back and watch season 2 I think of Andor, this is stuff you need to get through.
yeah,
Not that it's not bad, but it's not like peak. It's and so for me this is like and I'm setting up I guess for the next episodes, but this is more like a 7.5 for me because it's not
okay.
something that I'm really. But if this is 7.5 and I give the whole series a 9, this is just to let you know that like it's
The
coming.
best is yet to come.
Yeah, it's more than gonna offset like this little dent in, but again it's not that it's bad, it's just not something that like if this was like the whole season you'd be like it was all right, it was good, but like nothing really because it is just like I said, like previously it's slow cooking. You need to get through this and you need to, it was more like where are they now type thing.
Mhm,
And I see it more as 4 big episodes where they could have made full seasons out of it, right? Like out of every
mhm.
story arc, like so.
If you want to make an analogy out of it, it's like, when you're starting a Dungeon and Dragons game, you have to set up the board first. And those 3 episodes, that's
Yeah,
what they do.
yeah.
They set up the board, they say who's who, and who's about what, and now let's get
Well,
down to business.
it's basically I think that's a good analogy if you compare it to like board games or anything of some sort, like or any game. You start off, you don't have much, you don't have much resources. You
Yeah.
have to build, and then off you go, and then after that, it's your last moments of the game where everything happens. But I thought just in contrast to let's say the first 3 episodes of Andor season 1,
Mm-hmm.
it's not really in the same kind of like action. So that's why I said also like if a kid's watching this, when you get
Yeah.
to like season two, episode 2 or 3 of this season, you can just be like, geez, nothing's going on, because it is. It's not flashy. It's definitely
Mm-hmm.
not that flashy, and especially the way it started with the scene with the ship with Cassian, I thought like that really set my expectations. So for anyone that obviously hasn't seen the full thing, just be patient. If that's what you're waiting for,
Yeah.
it's coming, and the story's only going to get better. And like that, for me, it's already good at this point. But it's just like I said, an entertainment value and stuff like that. It'll get there. And when you've seen the whole thing, in hindsight, you'll understand a little bit more what this is.
Yeah. Spot on. Yeah.
So yeah, maybe a little bit harsh at 7.5, but you know,
For a moment, I thought you were going to give it. You go above me. I was like, "What?
no,
You're giving Star Wars a bigger grade than
no,
me?
I'm a
That's
little harder with this
impossible."
stuff. Yeah. So, but I mean, like I said, the next parts will offset, and so I guess we'll have
The grades are only going to go up.
yeah, for sure. So another one of these next week.
Yes, can't wait. We're recording this on a Sunday, so Saturday, sorry.
Saturday.
So only 3 days to go before being able to watch.
We'll try to get them a little
3 to
sooner, but
6.
there's a scheduling
Yeah,
conflict for us Canadians because we have hockey games.
playoffs.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's making it a little difficult, and especially at first we had the same night for me being a Montreal Canadiens fan and Dominic being a Colorado Avalanche fan. They were playing the same
Mm-hmm.
nights, but now they've kind of branched off,
Kind of
and
split.
they're
Yeah.
so it's making it a little bit more difficult. But we'll try to get it out a little bit earlier next week. So.
Yeah. Well, it should be easier for Eric very soon because he's gonna get eliminated
Oh, here we
pretty
go.
quickly.
So,
I'm just pulling your leg.
what are the series for Colorado and Montreal?
Yeah. We're both trailing
Yeah,
2-1 right now, so yeah, we'll give you an update on the next podcast of where we're
yeah.
at.
We're gonna change to the sports podcast. All right, so not same time, same place, but same place for of course. Star Wars Artifact, and Dom, you wanna talk us out until next week?
Yes, for sure. So I hope you guys had a good time with us. If there's anything we forgot, don't forget to mention it in the comments. And well, until next time, may the force be with you always.